Hey, it's Coach Sean here. Made a few slides here to go over some basics for what we are trying to do with Manchester Bears football. So let's get right into it. First off, we'll start with our defense. The base defense is called our 4-2-5 defense. The reason why it's called 4-2-5 is because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 down linemen. We have an edge lineman and 2 defensive tackles, and then another edge lineman. The SE means strong edge, but we're not going to really worry about that on JV, probably only varsity. And then we have these two linebackers here. One linebacker is called the Mike and one is called the Will. They're also called the middle linebackers. These two guys here, the Robber and the Joker, are kind of like hybrids, defensive backs slash cornerbacks or linebackers. So they're part of the 5. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's how we get the name 4, 2, and then these 5. So once again, we get edge. We have defensive tackle or tackle, these two guys. Strong edge or just edge. Robber, Joker, Mike, Will. These two are linebackers, a cornerback, a safety, and another cornerback. Next, this is the base offense that we're going to run most of the time with the JV offense for the Manchester Bears. So I will go over the positions here. We'll start with the center because the center is the most important position. They're the ones that hike the ball. Next to the center, we got a guard and a guard. This is the left guard because it's on the left-hand side of the center. This is the right guard because they're on the right side of the center. Next, if we move out one more, we have the right tackle because he's on the right side. We have the left tackle because he's on the left side. Now, if we go all the way over here, you see this one that says Y. The Y player is going to be the tight end. He's kind of like a mix between a wide receiver and an offensive lineman. He's kind of a hybrid player, just like there was hybrid players on the defense. He can block, he can go out for a pass, he can do both. So we have our center, guard, tackle, right side, left side. Next, we have our backs. So this is our 2-back. It's important to note that the 2-back is always going to be on the left-hand side. This is the 3-back over here. And it's important to note that the 3-back will always be on the right-hand side. And then here's our 4-back. The 4-back is always going to be behind the quarterback. Now the 4-back is also called a fullback. So you can be called the 4-back or the fullback. And then the 2-back and the 3-back are also called wing backs because they kind of form a wing here. It looks like a bird's wing coming off the blockers on the line of scrimmage. So 2-back or wing back, 3-back or wing back, and 4-back or fullback. And then of course we have the quarterback who gets the ball hiked to him. And then lastly, the X player. The X player is also called a wide receiver or a split end. So if you hear somebody say, hey, you are in at the X, you line up at the X. So this is just a diagram of our base offense going against our base defense. Once again, we have left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle, the Y or tight end, quarterback, wide receiver or the X, the 2-back, which is a wing back, the 3-back, which is a wing back, and then the 4-back, which is a fullback. We'll see here, this says DT. It can say DT for defensive tackle, or it could just say tackle. This one says tackle, this one says DT, but they're the same thing, tackles. They're the guys who go in the middle of the field and in the middle of the pile, if you will, in the middle of the line. They're usually bigger anchor guys. They're usually pretty big. Now, again, we have the edge guys here, 2 edge guys. So if you're facing the other way, if you're facing this way down, from here down, well, that's going to be the left end, that's going to be the right end. And then once again, we got our safety up here represented by the money symbol. He's like our last line of defense. Then we have our cornerback, another cornerback, our Will linebacker, our Mike linebacker, they're both middle linebackers. And then these guys, kind of like how a tight end is a hybrid between a lineman and a wide receiver, the Joker and the Robber are kind of hybrids between a defensive back and a linebacker. These guys are going to be, not the smallest and fastest, but also not the biggest and slowest, kind of right in the middle. So when we're looking at offense here, you'll notice these numbers: 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8. Now the reason why those numbers are here is to label the gaps or the holes so we know where to run. So we'll look at a play shortly, but if we were to say that the runner is going to do a 44 dive, well, we're going to look for the 4, 44, 4 to the 4, 44. If he's going to do a 42 dive, you got 4, 2, 42 dive. If it was going to be a 41 dive, 4, 1, 41 dive, and so on and so forth. Now there's other ways we can do this, like when we run a sweep with the 2-back, we wouldn't sweep into the 3, so you never really see the 3 running into an odd hole. It's always going to be, most of the time, the 8 hole. So a 28 sweep, 2 into the 8 makes 8 is 28. So he'd go this way, 20 to the 8, 28 sweep. But then vice versa. So if you're looking at a 3-back getting the ball on a sweep, he'd be running to, most of the time, the 7 hole. So 37 sweep, 3, 7, 37 sweep. So that kind of explains that. Now let's look at it from the defensive perspective. Now this slide here shows our base defense lining up against our base offense, the 4-2-5 versus the pistol double wing. So what we'll notice here are a few things. So we come up here, we have our defensive tackles, our DTs, or our tackles. A lot of times we'll just call it tackle. If it's a tackle, it means you're in the middle of the line, lining up in front of the guards in the center. Then we have our edge player, our left end, because he's on the left side of the center, and right end, because he's on the right side of the center. Then we have our Mike linebacker, he's a middle linebacker. Our Will linebacker, he's a middle linebacker. We have our Joker, our Robber. Our Joker and our Robber are like hybrid players, kind of like a tight end is a hybrid player. They're somewhere in between a cornerback and a linebacker. They're, tend to be not super big, but not super small, kind of right in the middle, good speed, good tacklers. And that's why we put them on the ends here. Over here, you got your cornerback, another cornerback, and then we have a safety. You'll notice that there's these white lines here that divide the field. And these are kind of like similar to the hash marks. So the hash marks divide the field into 3. On a basic level, the cornerbacks have to guard their areas, their third of the field. So on this cornerback's side, if a wingback or the quarterback or running back or tight end, any of them go out for a pass, it's his responsibility to cover this side of the field. Also his responsibility to make sure that anybody running out here doesn't get past them and run by them. They want to keep them inside. Same thing on this side. If anybody runs into this area, he's the last line of defense, and so on and so forth. Now, when we're looking at gap assignments, and this can look a little intimidating because all the arrows here, but it's actually pretty simple. So these are our 5 linemen right here, right? The center, the 2 guards, and the 2 tackles. Those are the linemen. Now, a lot of times we also have the tight end on the line helping with blocking. Tight ends, they're like hybrids between a wide receiver and a lineman. So they're usually pretty good blockers too. So when the tight end is on the left side, when we're looking at him, if he's on the left side, that's Louis. We're saying Louis, Louis. That means the strong side left. That means they have extra blocking here. And a lot of times when they have extra blocking, that's where they're running to. So strong side left, strong side left. Now when the strong side is left, the Mike, or the left linebacker, is going to go into the B gap. And that's going to kind of line up everybody else from there. So if it's strong side left, he's going to the B gap. Your left defensive tackle on the left side is going to cover this A gap. Your edge player, your left edge player, is going to cover the C gap. The robber is going to cover this D gap, which we don't have labeled. And then this cornerback is responsible for this side. Now we're heading over here. So this A gap, when it's strong side left, he's, as a linebacker, is going to go into this A gap. This DT is going to go into this B gap. This edge player is going to cover between these guys, the C gap. This joker is going to be covered between these guys. And then lastly, the cornerback has the gap between the last player on the field and the sidelines. Now, what is it called if the tight end isn't here, but he actually runs over here and lines up on this side? Well, it's no longer Louis. We call it right side strong. Strong right, strong right. Or your teammates might yell out, Reggie, Reggie, or Rico, Rico, meaning right. So if the strong side is right, the tight end is moving from there, here, and lining up on this side. So you still have a wing backer, you still have a wide receiver, so you have a lot of guys on this side. Well, that will change things. So if the strong side's right, your Mike linebacker is now going to cover this A gap. And that's going to cause other people to have to move, because we don't want this guy covering the A gap and this guy. So what we're going to have is this guy will cover the A gap, this guy will move over into this gap to cover that gap, and these will remain the same. Now on this side of the ball, instead of this guy covering this A gap, he's going to cover the B gap. Kind of like how this guy currently is. See, they kind of swap. So he's covering the B, but if the tight end moves over here and it's strong side right, then he's going to go from B to A, and he's going to go from A to B. They're basically, these guys are moving down one because they want to apply pressure this way, because the run's probably coming this way because they have an extra blocker here along with these two guys. And now when that changes, this blocker, this DT, will go straight ahead into this gap so that he can go into this gap. And then this guy will remain the same. He'll get this gap, he'll get this gap. So here's just an example of a simple play that we run. There's two parts to the play. We got 43 dive, 28 sweep. The first part of the play is always going to be the fake. Where are we faking to? Well, in this case, we see 43, so we know the 4 back is going into the 3 hole. So if we look at our schematic, here's the center, hiking it to the QB. The QB is going to turn around, fake the handoff, pretend that he's handing it off to the 4 back, and the 4 back's going to run to the 3 hole. Now notice the left guard and the left tackle, anytime there's a dive to the 3 hole, the left guard is going to block down, which means towards the center, and the left tackle is going to block out. The reason why they do that is they're pushing apart here so that there's a little gap. If they were both pushing inward together, then there would be no gap because they'd be pushing them into the hole. So they need to open it up for this guy to run through. But he's a faker, so we're trying to sell the fact that this guy's running here. We really want him to think that he's running up here, so they crash down and try and plug that hole. And if they crash down and he crashes down into here because they think it's coming here, we did our job. That means we faked him out, and that should mean that if this guy comes down here, well, there's one less guy over here, because the real person that's actually going to run the ball on this play is it's the 28 sweep. So that means the 2 back is running to the 8 hole on a sweep motion. So we can look down here, see it's in red. that means that's the guy who's actually going to run. So the 2-back, after he's going to run up here, by this point, this guy's already faked it, and he's pretending to run up with the ball. He's pretending that he has the ball, but he's actually going to run, get the ball from the quarterback. He's going to run to the 8-hole. And once again, this is the 2-hole, this is the 4-hole, 6-hole, 8-hole. So the 2s run into the 8-hole. Now on these, whenever you have a sweep, you got to look at 28. So 2 going this way. So if the ball is coming to your side, say if you're playing right guard or right tackle, you got to remember, if the ball is going to your side on this play, on a sweep play like this, the right guard will step behind the tackle, run up, and block the first person that he sees in the way. And in this instance, because the ball is being run this way, we want to block the defensive tackle this way. So he's going to block down or block towards the center. And the reason why he's doing that is because he doesn't want this guy to be able to run this way. So he's stopping him. He's kind of creating a little shield. So he wants to push him this way. Same thing with our tight end here, or the Y. Because we're running this way, we want to block him away from there. We want to block him so he's being pushed way over here. Now, if this guy missed his assignment and blocked him from here this way, well, you're just pushing this guy up to where we want to run, so we're not doing anything. That's why we're going to make sure that the ball is going to this side. These guys got to remember, hey, I need to push him away from the ball, I need to push him away from the ball, and then this pulling guard comes up to here to be a lead blocker to block anybody in the way. The same thing, the 3-back over here, he would go up to the next level and try and get a block on a linebacker up here. But hopefully, hopefully that fake worked, and these guys kind of ran in a little bit trying to stop this guy. And in that case, that's good, because our guys can kind of move up a little bit and then really, turn this angle a little bit this way. If he can take a step up and block him that way, that's even better. So those are some of the basics of these formations and the positions. So hopefully you learned a little bit, and yeah, we'll see you back for more at some point soon.